unbroken. Sent in. McManaman dodging. McManaman scoring!
Yes, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. Dublin are through to yet another All-Ireland final. Once again, they have beaten Mayo by 10 points at Croke Park in the 2019 All-Ireland semi-final. It certainly didn't look that way at half-time. It looked like Dublin maybe just weren't quite up to the speed with Mayo's defence and couldn't quite break through them. But in that second half, a combination of Dublin's relentless attack and Dublin just really being bang up for it the second half, compared with an absolute collapse from this Mayo team, means that Dublin run out 10-point winners. Of course, though, first of all, guys, if you're new around here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this game. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So, of course, in that first half, it certainly was very even early on. Mayo set up in many ways actually quite differently to the way they have set up against Dublin in previous games. They operated a bit of a defensive system, not an all-out blanket defence or anything like that, but certainly Mayo were being very composed in possession, they were being very good on the ball. They were trying to draw Dublin out and then are trying to exploit those spaces in behind Dublin. And it was working to a certain extent. Mayo were having some early joy in terms of points. Colin Boyle looked very good in that first half. Aidan O'Shea's driving runs and his passing and his possession at times was very good. And Dublin were struggling at times to operate similarly to Mayo. Dublin just couldn't seem to get quite in behind Mayo. Mayo were operating very well defensively. Chris Barrett was doing absolutely fantastic in defence. To nullify the likes of Con O'Callaghan. Brendan Harrison as well was fantastic in that first half, and all around Mayo just looked physically up to the challenge. And I feel like that is a big problem that a lot of teams have when they come up against Dublin, is to match their physicality, because Dublin, they're strong players, they're tall players, they're quick, they're physical. It's very hard to keep up with that over a full 70 minutes. We've seen a lot of teams fade away. And I feel like that was always the worry with this Mayo team, even in that first half, was we know that Dublin, they don't get tired, they keep going. Dublin is the type of team that just gets better as they go on, and of course you have players to bring off the bench as well. So there was a lot of question marks over whether Mayo could keep it going into the second half. One thing I was impressed with by Mayo in the first half was certainly their possession keeping. They done very well as well in terms of turnovers. Knocking Dublin out of possession. There was times they were very quick on players like Kieran Kilkenny, Micah Darragh Macaulay. They done brilliant at really nullifying Dublin's midfield from trying to get in behind Mayo. And they done very well in that aspect. But in the second half, we all know what happens. Dublin were just unbelievable at the start of that second half. I'm not too sure what Jim Gavin would have said to them at half time, but certainly whatever he did say to them made a huge difference. It really, really did, because Dublin, one thing they didn't do in the first half, in my opinion, although Mayo were excellent defensively, the movement between the Dublin forwards wasn't quite there. Con O'Callaghan, Paul Mannion, they just weren't quite moving as frequently and as fluidly as you would like from this Dublin team. But in the second half, they certainly were. Paul Mannion and Con O'Callaghan started rotating at times. It really confused the Mayo defence. They were moving all over the place, and it was creating lots of space within that full-back line. And Mayo just couldn't seem to deal with the relentless pressure from this Dublin side. Con O'Callaghan got a goal. Paul Mannion started hitting shots from absolutely everywhere. Some wonderful points from him. And before we know it, what was a 2-point lead for Mayo was 3-4 points down. And I always felt that Mayo would have the experience to turn this around, that they have the players there in some respects to calm the ship, to steady the ship in many ways, but they just weren't doing so. They kept trying the long kickouts because Dublin had pushed up very well. They didn't change the matchups soon enough. They should have put someone else on Con O'Callaghan, because clearly at this stage what they were trying previously in the first half wasn't working. And Dublin had another goal as a result, very similar. Once again played into Con O'Callaghan, gave Rob Hennelly the eyes, slotted it to his right hand side, and Dublin were absolutely cruising. And Mayo, they just bottled it in many ways in that second half. There's absolutely no doubt about it. bottling sounds like a harsh word in many aspects, but I really feel like they did, because in front of goal they missed a lot of very easy chances in my opinion, and they started taking snapshots, and some of their younger players like Fionn McDonough, let's say, he was just giving the ball away at times, and Mayo just really collapsed in many ways, and Dublin capitalised heavily on that. Of course though, Mayo did settle down a little bit and they did start to show some level of resolve. They did go ahead and get themselves a goal through Lee Keegan, very nice finish, kind of looped it over Stephen Cluxton. But Mayo just didn't quite have, they were too far behind by then. Dublin, with their experience, were able to keep the ball, to be composed in midfield with Kieran Kilkenny and Michael Dara McCauley. And then, when Dublin have the firepower to bring off the bench, you're bringing Paddy Andrews on, you're bringing Darren McConnelly on towards the end, Cormac Costello as well, who did actually get a black card in the closing stages. So Dublin just have so much players to bring off the bench, and they don't get tired. I think the big advantage they have over every other county is that conditionally they're just miles ahead of everyone else. I do feel like, in terms of technical ability, Mayo are behind Dublin in terms of accuracy in front of goal, but they certainly are far off, and I feel like there's a lot of teams that can challenge Dublin in the technical aspect, but in terms of physicality and in terms of conditioning, Dublin are just far better. And they were saying there in the Sunday game that they should cancel tomorrow's semi-final because Dublin, have very much already won this All-Ireland. I disagree with that in my opinion, even as a Dublin fan myself. I look at Tyrone and I think, if they beat Kerry tomorrow, they're the type of team that, I look at the way Mayo operated in that first half with that defensive system in many ways, the way they frustrated Dublin. I wonder if Tyrone could do something similar for a full 70 minutes. And Tyrone do have a bit of firepower from the bench, and they are very well conditioned in many ways. So look, listen, we'll see what happens. We'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Tyrone still have to beat a very good Kerry team. And of course, you can see my preview to that game if you haven't already. Link will be in the description. But anyway, lads, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. I think for all Mayo fans watching, you can be very proud of how Mayo have conducted themselves this year. They had a number of injuries throughout the year. Dermot O'Connor only came back for this game, of course. Tom Parsons, great to see him back on the pitch, having the injury problems that he has had over the past year or so. And Matthew Rowan had a slight injury concern. So I do think Mayo will be back. I don't think we should completely write Mayo off completely. They can come back next year if they can, bring a few more players through, from the under-20s or the under-21s. Then who knows, maybe they can challenge again. But certainly this was just a step too far for them. And in the end, Dublin just had far too much. But anyway, lads, I am going to go ahead and end this video here. Do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the game. My name is Aaron. I'll catch you all next time.